Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now, today's first story is titled, How to Deal with Sister-in-Law, 34 female, going out of her way to make me, 32 female, feel unwelcome in the family. I always make an effort to get along with my husband's 31 male family, and they meet halfway, except for the sister-in-law. She's been with my husband's brother for about 10 years, and I married my husband 6 months ago, so I'm newer in the family. When my husband introduced me to everyone during a get-together, I saw sister-in-law chatting with one of his cousins in the distance, and they were laughing and looking and pointing at me. It felt like I was back in high school. It was a bit nerve-wracking, but I think I was able to keep my cool so no one noticed. I never did anything to her. It seems it was hatred at first sight. She says things like, "You probably don't know what I'm talking about because you weren't part of the family at the time," or forgetting to include me on special occasions, like only inviting my husband to their daughter's baptism, or sending a Christmas card with only my husband's name on it, or messaging me, which she never does, on my birthday to ask a silly question, completely ignoring the fact that it was my birthday. She does it in a way that no one else notices, so it's hard to react without me looking crazy. For example, during get-togethers, if there's a circle of people chatting, she comes into the circle and turns her back to me, basically blocking me from the conversation. Or around the table, she never looks at me when she's speaking. But funnily, I caught her staring at me several times from afar. I told my husband about it, and he asked me if I wanted him to talk to his brother. I said no, because if he does, chances are brother-in-law will probably tell her about it, and then she'll know she got under my skin. So he said I should just ignore it. I know he's right, and I shouldn't let it bother me so much, but it does. It feels so childish and ridiculous. I hate to be a part of this. Anyway. Now with the holidays coming, I'm stressing about going over to his parents because she'll obviously be there. His family is great and I love them, but I don't want to spend my Christmas and New Year's Eve dealing with her mean girl vibes. Is there anything within myself I can do to stop feeling like this, or should I just try to solve the situation by chatting with her or letting my husband talk to the brother about it? Now for me, I think there's like a couple of paths you can go down on this depending on how you feel about it. Obviously, one of them is just carry on like you are and keep being kind to everyone else, which probably makes her look bad to the rest of the family. Hopefully, she's bad-mouthing you to everyone else. And whilst you're being kind and polite to everyone, in the end, it's just making her look bad. But, I kind of feel in some ways that it's almost letting her get away with it in some form. I much prefer the method of calling her out on it, maybe letting the husband talk to the brother about it, and making people aware of the behavior that she's showing towards you. I'm sure someone's noticed some of these behaviors going on, especially with like Christmas card things and your name not being in any of them, which is just bizarre. Personally, for me, I'd want people to be aware of that situation. It may make things awkward, of course, but she's the one that should be feeling awkward about it. Acrobatic Mechanic asks OP, they said, first, does your husband also notice how she treats you? Maybe ask him to observe her so he can fully see how awful she was treating you. I'll be extra nice to everyone, excluding her. OP says, he said he never noticed in person, but when I didn't answer a message on my birthday, she messaged him and he told her it was my birthday. Her answer was like, yeah, happy birthday to her. Anyways, he was pretty livid about it. So now he's on to her. And button in again. Sorry. But what is her end game in this situation? What does she think is going to happen? The whole family's going to turn on her and, kick her out of the family. In the end, I can only feel like this is going to backfire on her. But Heartland Mum says she sounds very insecure and unhappy because normally going to such lengths to belittle or marginalize someone takes effort. Just be your sunny self and kill his entire family with kindness. By not feeding into it, you're showing her it isn't working and you just don't care. Also, people like to be around fun, happy people, and she doesn't sound like she fits that description. Annual Version, who also says kill her with kindness. First, ask your husband to keep his eyes open for her behavior just so he truly sees it. She makes comments about you not being part of the family at an earlier time. Respond with, "It's so nice we're still newlyweds." She turns her back on you. Squeeze in beside her with a huge smile on your face and say, "Oops, guess you didn't see me there," and join in the conversation. At the dinner table, ask her a pointed question so she has to look at you. Something like, "Remember that question you texted me on my birthday? I looked into it more and XYZ." Because she's so subtle, being passive aggressive might be the only way to go. Lola Lovely says, "I understand the instinct, but ignoring isn't your only option. I live by calling them out with kindness and empathy. Sister-in-law stands in front of you to block you from the group, laugh and smile like she's so scatterbrained, and remind her that you're standing there. Sister-in-law only invites your husband or only address things to your husband. Smile and laugh when it's brought up around people, because I know it is because that's how she gets her rocks off. And say, poor sister-in-law was the only daughter-in-law for so long she keeps forgetting it's two of you now." The point is, you can address these slights while both not sinking to a level and not letting her get under your skin. Also, speaking up has the added bonus of bringing it to people's attention, making it harder for her to pretend like it's a mistake. I gotta say, I quite like that style. And one more comment from According to Whom, who says, "Having dealt with a similar sister-in-law, my brother's wife, for close to 40 years, I don't really know what to recommend. Ignoring it just made her escalate the passive-aggressive behavior. But when I've spoken up, she plays the victim, saying I'm trying to turn the family against her. And I end up looking like the bad guy. Thankfully, I hardly ever see her because we live quite far from them. But for years, my side of the family took a vacation together, and she did something insulting or hurtful to me every time. At least the family members I'm close to see her for what she is and really dislike her, even before knowing what she was doing to me. And she and my brother, who sees nothing wrong with her behavior, are estranged from some of their children. I just avoid her as much as I can when I have to be around her." So OP does come in with an update and says, "I want to thank everyone that commented on my previous post," and shares the link. It says, "It helped me so much to see things from a different perspective, and I really enjoyed reading some comments that shared their own similar stories. I guess I could break down the advices in 3 groups. Kill her with kindness. Be extra nice to her. Play her game. Be passive aggressive. Ignore her. I googled grey rocking and it's such an interesting concept." So here comes the update. I decided to go spend Christmas at my in-laws, despite my sister-in-law, let's call her Lindsay because a user decided that's her name, lol. I went there determined to enjoy it with the other members of the family, and my husband said he'd back me up if anything happened. As soon as I arrived, Lindsay greeted me with the backhanded compliment, "Oh, I love your dress. I even bought the same one, but didn't think I should wear it for Christmas." In the split second, I had to react. I remember all the comments about how she must be sad and insecure, and whatever issue she has with me is about her. So I genuinely felt a strong sense of pity for her. I guess my face showed that because I was standing there looking at her. She looked puzzled while waiting for my answer. I figured both of us knew there was nothing left to say. I went away to greet other people and just left her there. I figured that's what bothered me was my own expectation of how our relationship should look like. I wish me and Lindsay were friends and that we could support each other and the ones who married into the family. But unfortunately, that wasn't the reality and I had to accept it. From that moment on, I genuinely stopped caring about her and what she was doing. I didn't feel like killing her with kindness nor being passive aggressive to her because that would require me to put energy into it. So I really can't tell if she tried to ostracize me or if she tried to offend me because I was too busy enjoying my time with my husband and his family. Thank you again, internet strangers. I hope you're enjoying your holidays carefree." Oh, dearie me. I'd have loved to been. I could just picture. I'm just picturing it like them stood in the hallway, just got in the front door, and they're greeting each other. And OP does that, just leaves her standing there, just watching the cogs turn in her head, like shit, she's onto me, kind of thing. Not that she wasn't before, but just that particular moment where she recognizes that OP isn't going to take this shit anymore, just walks away. I kind of feel like it isn't the end of the story, that Lindsay may come back into it some point down the road. So I'd love to see an update like a couple of months later, a couple of meetings later, and see what happens from there. I just got a feeling that Lindsay's going to test the waters again, if you know what I mean. But what do you guys make of this situation? Have you ever dealt with a family member like that before? How did you deal with it? Are you still dealing with it to this day? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story does come with an update as well from Throwaway Mr. Man, who says, my 30 male, wife 27 female is upset with me for making plans when her friends are over. And this was from the relationship advice subreddit. Hey everyone, I'll try to keep this short. My wife 27 and I 30 have been married for a little over 3 years now, and we each have a child from separate relationships. We've been struggling with my wife and my son's 7 relationship for a while now. My son also lives with his mother about 2 hours away, and I don't get to see him a whole lot. My wife's friend and her boyfriend are coming up from Florida to DC for a work conference, but will be staying with us for a couple of days to hang out. My son, 7, has a wrestling tournament that's his first one of the year during one of the days that they are at our house. I'd brought this up to my wife when we were discussing plans and scheduling for when her friends are over. I'd wanted to know what she thought and if she's okay if I were to go, since it's during the time her friends are over. She had told me that she was fine with it, and whenever I'm done, I can meet up with him wherever they may be. She is now telling me that since I decided to prioritize going to my son's wrestling match over spending time with her and her friends while they're here, she just doesn't want me to meet up with them anymore. I asked her why she didn't tell me that when we were talking about it initially, and she told me that she didn't want to tell me because she was uncomfortable and assumed I would just go anyway. I now feel like crap. I don't want to let her down, but I also don't want to let my son down. Does anybody have any advice on how to handle this? OP edited the post and says, hey everyone, thanks for all the advice and responding to my post. This blew up a lot more than I thought it would. I'm trying to respond to most of you, but it's getting a little hard. I'll be going to my son's wrestling tournament no matter what, but will handle my wife if anything happens from that. I'm just trying to be a good dad and be present for my son. So as always, a couple of comments which OP responds to. Olivia says, yes, you absolutely should be prioritizing your son. If she doesn't understand that, then she shouldn't be married to another parent. Was this out of left field, or does she often expect you to prioritize her over your kid? Was she like this before you got married? OP says we've had a lot of issues we've been working on with our therapist, so it's not too out of left field. I did think it was being worked on a lot and wouldn't occur like this anymore. She wasn't too much like this before marriage. A Heavy Burden says, this is what you were supposed to tell her. Like, say aloud in a not angry, heated tone, factually and calm. OP says, I told her that when I went to be there for her and her friends, since we don't see them much. I want to be there for my son. Especially it being his first match of the season. Like, I'm trying to see her point of view, but it's just not the same and doesn't compare. I told her I wanted to take her friends out for dinner later at night, since they took us out while we visited them last time, but clearly that won't happen anymore. I'm trying to show my support in ways like that. I always struggle with these stories when couples get together and, you know, they've got children on either side, how you're not encouraging them to see their child, and now you're actively being sort of like punished for going to see your child at the same time as well. That is some bizarre ass behavior. And thankfully, OP's already said that they will be attending their son's sports event, which, you know, thank goodness, because it'd absolutely break my heart to find out that he wasn't doing that. I'm thinking about this child, you know, probably wants his dad there to be seeing him do this. But Legal Nebula says, things like showing up to your son's game are very, very important to kids. Your wife is a grown adult. Your wife will feel far worse if you don't show up, so let your wife act immature and disrespectful of your parenting responsibilities if she wants, but don't let your kid down. Imagine how you'd feel if your dad only cared how his wife felt when she was being totally unreasonable and didn't show up to your tournament to hang out with her stupid friends. Riskbreaker quotes that comment and says, whenever I go to a school function where my children do some sort of performance, I always see the anxiousness on their faces as they look for me. It's like they're scared I'm not there, which is a bit odd because I drove us, lol. I also see the relief and happiness the instant we lock eyes and they know I'm there. This kind of stuff is so important to children. Their mental well-being takes a real hit if parents don't prioritize being at these things. So OP does come in to update the post and says, I had come back from my son's tournament Saturday night and everything seemed perfectly fine. We took her friends out to brunch and went Christmas shopping after we dropped them off at the airport. I was still very bothered by what happened and how the situation was handled, but had plans to talk to her about it in our therapy session. Everything was going good Sunday until another issue came up regarding my son. We were discussing ideas to get our families from the kids and came up with letting my son pick out gifts for my side and a stepson do his side. I'd called my son and asked him if he had ideas, but he needed some time to think. I figured I'd give him a day and I'd go out and get the rest of the gifts through the week because I had to anyway, to grab a few things for my wife. My wife wanted him to know that day since we're out shopping already, but I kept telling her that I have to go back out anyway so it'd be okay. She just insisted he figured her out while we were out so it wouldn't impact our schedule, and so I could be home to take care of things as normal. We compromised and said that I would call him that night or the next morning to see what he came up with, and if nothing, we would pick out gifts for ourselves. I agreed. Issue came when she thought I had said I would go shopping Monday since it's my day off for the week. I told her that Monday was my first day in 2 weeks, I'd have a moment to relax a bit. She said she didn't want me to kill myself with it, but if I can please do it tomorrow so I wouldn't be coming home late any other night. I was trying to tell her that I don't want to make that promise, but I'll take care of some stuff at home, and if I'm feeling up for it, I'll go out to the stores to finish. I usually have to stop at places on my way home from work occasionally, and same with her, but it's never been an issue. This is why I bring up my son, because I feel like it's a big deal now since it's partially due to him. My wife wouldn't admit it, but it's just my feeling. We ended up having a huge argument over it, and with her saying that she's constantly taking care of everything and I'm not here to help. The second I get home from work, I'm with my wife taking care of the kids. I didn't mention it before, but we have a 2-year-old son. Making dinner, cleaning up, rotating in, putting our son to bed. The normal stuff that needs to happen. By the time it's all done, I have to start getting ready for bed since I'm up at 4 AM. I just feel like she brings that up a lot of times when it relates to me doing anything extra for my 7-year-old. From there on, she shuts down and doesn't talk to me for most of the time, which has been the norm for years from her. Anyways, my step had his first hockey game Monday night. I wanted to make sure I went for him since it was important rather than not going because of my wife. I ended up leaving our therapy session. She ended up not showing, so I could get there before it started, but I would have to leave early because the game started at 9 PM and was 30 minutes away. The thing is that my parents were supposed to go, but they ended up not being able to. My parents have a tendency to not show up at my stepson's stuff, but make sure to show up for my 2-year-old and 7-year-old, which I've talked to them about. My wife asked me when I got home if they went to my son's wrestling tournament. That made me know that it's just going to blow up. I told myself I'd respond to her in the morning because it was already super late and I needed sleep. She just ended blowing up on me, saying things like my parents are a flake, deadbeat, etc., then telling me that I only show up to my stepson's events for show. She says that because I've been struggling with bonding and showing deep interest in his activities because of the way she handles my 7-year-old, I've been focused on trying to be present at his events. I've also shown up to every event and activity of his and doing things to support him, like getting him hockey gear and signing up for special hockey activities. I was just baffled, I guess, and losing my patience. She eventually brought up with us getting a divorce, and out of anger, I agreed. I just don't know what to do anymore. I understand I've messed up with things and not the greatest, but I'm just lost. Thanks for everyone who read this and gives me advice and honest opinions. And one more relevant comment from Comfortable Way, who says, oh my, that is not healthy. How are your therapy sessions going? When does she show up, I mean? What is her excuse for not bonding with your son? Because she seems to acknowledge that she is lacking in that area. You are not communicating or functioning as a family. She does not get to berate your parents or yourself on the behavior towards a child, even though you were trying, so not the same thing here. When she is in some sort of messed up cold war with your 7-year-old child, that's really hypocritical. OP says they go well for the most part. The therapist has said for her to seek individual therapy because she has a lot of deep down frustrations that need to be worked on. It hasn't happened yet for reasons, mainly because not wanting to pay co-pays. I just find it wrong if that's what's holding her back. Money and also time. Especially don't be getting upset at me for something my parents did. It's not in my control. Oh, dearie me, this is an absolute messy one, and I gotta be honest, reading it, I'm not seeing much light at the end of the tunnel. Talk of divorce, not showing up to couples therapy, which it sounds like is a huge thing to me. Obviously, I've never done therapy, but if you're doing couples therapy and one of you doesn't show up to it, it sounds like quite a big statement to me. I'm not sure how you feel about that. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. But thank you today for joining us for a couple more stories. Your love, your support, your time is always hugely appreciated. I've had some absolutely wonderful comments over the Christmas period. You guys sharing your stories and your pictures of, the various Christmas activities that you're getting up to and your general thoughts and feelings around Christmas. It brings up all sorts of feelings, doesn't it? It does for myself as well. I said I went totally off on there. Thank you so much for being here today. Much love to you, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.